Ladies and gentlemen, the play's The Thing, with your host, Judy Sleed. Special guest, Barbara Goldowsky, world-famed writer. Now here's Judy.
Hello, everybody. I'm Judy Sleed, and this is The Play's The Thing, and I have Barbara with me as a guest. And I see that you were quoted, said as a writer, but I know you as a dancer. So in between dances, you write.
Well, I'm a dance student. I'm not really a professional dancer by any means. I've just been taking these lessons for 10 years, and I keep going, not because I'm a slow learner, although I am kind of, but because I like the people there so much, and I call it the Tuesday night ballroom, because that's when my lessons happen.
It's a hobby.
It's a hobby, yes.
Oh,
writing is my work, and dancing is my hobby.
Well, that's a nice hobby.
It's a
lets
wonderful
off
hobby.
steam.
Yes, and it calms me down somehow.
It does. You know, I went to that class once or twice, and I was exhausted after an hour.
Yes. Well, we met actually through your friend Scott, who's one of my teachers.
Yes,
Scott,
he's a
and
great dancer. So that's why I just keep thinking of you as a dancer.
I see. Well, I'm flattered, but you know, I do dance, but not as a professional.
So where are you from, Barbara?
Well, I've lived in East Hampton for the past 10 years and in Southampton before that since 1974.
And would you call Southampton your home?
Well, it was home. It was home for many, many years. I lived before that in New York City. I lived before then in Chicago, where I went to school. And before Chicago, I was actually born in Germany.
Oh, you were born in Germany?
Yes,
well,
correct.
that's a long way.
Yes. It took me a long time to get here.
Yeah, and you don't have an accent.
No, I don't believe I do.
You don't believe you do, so you were very young when you came here.
I was just turning 14.
Oh, well, that's, you know, I'm from Hungary, and I came here when I was about 16. And I also had many stops before I got here.
So you understand what some of the problems were, right?
Yes. So you're a writer.
Yes.
That's also one of my favorite occupations. And I see those books over there, and you had written all those books?
Yes, there's 4 published books altogether.
Okay,
Tuesday Night Ballroom, I think
Tuesday Night Ballroom. Can I have a close-up on this? And is this your latest one?
No, actually, the latest one is Piece of the Hamptons, which is short stories. But
Oh, well,
I pulled out that one because we were talking about dancing. And that was directly inspired by my lessons with Agnes Bristol and Scott. And
Okay, we finally got a close-up of this one. So this is about what?
this is poems about learning to dance, the difficulties and the joys of doing that.
And in the back here, I see a very cute picture of you, which says, Barbara Goldowsky has published numerous poems, short stories, and feature articles in regional and natural media. Oh, I wonder if you could get this picture. This is so cute.
And the cute guy is Richard Misdall, who's an artist and a photographer.
Okay.
He did black and white illustrations for the inside of the book. And we were having so much fun. This was about 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm dressed in my sequined outfit with my feather in my hair. And my husband said, "Oh, that's all right. She always dresses like this at 9 o'clock in the morning."
Oh, that is adorable. And the one you have in your hand
Now, the one I have is Piece of the Hamptons, and that's a book of short stories.
Peace, P-E-A-C.
P-E-A-C, right.
Okay, now this is another close-up, if I may have. Okay, and what inspired you to write this book?
Well, it's not actually a continuous book like a novel. It's a collection of 14 short stories, and they appeared at all different times in different places. Three of them never appeared anywhere, but when I made the collection, I thought, all right, put everything in that has...
So when you say the short stories, does it mean they are factual events or...
No, it's fiction.
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 Fictional short stories.
Right.
Oh, that's
As
great.
you probably know, the East Hampton Star is gracious enough to run one fictionalized or memoir story
Every week.
every
yes.
week. So I think 3 or 4 of them were
Ran.
sent to the Star and ran in the East Hampton Star.
Okay, and the next one
And
is...
the next one, we're going backwards in time here, folks. This is
That's-
Restless Spirits. This is also short stories, fiction.
Okay, here it is. Restless Spirit. And is this a... Don't just leave the close-up because the other side is that you?
That's me, a long time ago, in my hat.
Oh, this is nice. And you're wearing a hat.
I'm wearing a hat.
And this is 4 stories.
Right.
Also fiction?
Also fiction. The thing about these 4 stories is that they're all about music or musicians. And as you see, the picture was taken by my husband, Norman Pickering, who is a musician and inventor and has inspired a whole lot of talk about musical events and musicians. And he's...
So one of them is Schubert's Death and the Maiden.
Yeah, that's a very dark story about...
Oh my gosh.
Yes. About a very depressed musician who didn't get his life's, work fulfilled. He feels a failure because somebody else's.
Yeah, I can imagine. I could just
Somebody
feel
else-
that
yeah,
when
right,
somebody.
Somebody
You
else
wish
has
he's
got the
not-
jobs he wants, and
Yeah.
he's feeling inferior, but at the same time superior to the better person who happens to be
Yeah.
named Betterman in the story.
That's like falling between 2 chairs.
Yes. And being
Okay, and
resentful
that
about
one?
it. Well, this is my very first collection of poems. It doesn't have a cover picture, sorry. The cover picture was supposed to happen, but never
You
did.
never did.
Printing glitch. Ferry to Nirvana and New Poems, it's called.
And these are just poems.
Just poems.
So you write
Also
poems
collected.
and you write. Is there you have a piece of paper here. That means you have a favorite poem, maybe?
Oh, yeah, I thought I might read
Yeah,
you something.
yeah, please read one.
Okay. This is really starting at the beginning, called Eden,
Okay.
as in paradise. In the beginning, love created them, perfection. A fragrant garden she, he the shining sky, her voice soft bluebells, his words serene and sage. The snore, the yawn have not yet been invented. The worm of boredom has not hatched in paradise. Adam yearns when he must be away. Eve cherishes his footprint in the earth. The serpent introduces time and apples, sweet mortal years that toll for all. He bids them eat. They swallow seeds of indigestion. Eyes are opened. Budding brains develop faults of memory. Adam belches, and Eve hears. The world's first tears are shed. You're tracking dirt upon my rug. My dear, your armpits reek. Why don't you shave? Seeking justice, counsel, they confront the snake. He shrugs an iridescent scale. You're human now, you chose to be. Paradise, he says, is not eternity. But I'm allowed to give a little consolation. Each time you fall in love, you will remember. And for those moments, you may live free once again in the apple-scented garden.
That's lovely.
Thank you.
That tells a whole story. You could write a novel about this whole all things that you describe from beginning to end.
John Milton wrote Paradise Lost. This is not quite it.
So, what inspired you? How did you start writing? How old were you when you wrote your first piece, would you say?
I was interested in journalism when I went to college and university. And I wanted to become a foreign correspondent or something really, big in the journalism world.
Yes.
Sort of like Christine Amanpour
Yeah.
of 1950s. But instead of doing journalism, I went to the University of Chicago, where they did not have a journalism school, but they did have a scholarship for me, which I really needed, being an immigrant. And I had my conference with the advisors. The advisors said, look, you don't need a journalism school to write. You can learn to write, in 6 weeks. And you can learn how to write a journalism piece from a book, how to. But what you do need is a good background in political science, history, philosophy, and those things. So off I went into the political science program, which was fabulous. I got the most wonderful education. And then after university, I got sidetracked. I got married, I had children. And it was many years later, I started writing for the Southampton Press. That was, many, many years later.
So while you
So
were...
I had kind of a backwards career, right?
So while you were married and raising children, you didn't do any writing?
I
or
did
just...
some writing just for myself.
Yeah, for yourself.
And I did some translation from the German. I translated an art book.
And
like
you
that.
said your husband is a musician.
Right.
The
I
two
was
of you
married first to an art dealer.
Oh,
And that's why I was translating the art book. And I helped, we had a family business, so I did work, but not in journalism.
you had a family business when you said
An art
family?
dealership, My first husband was an art dealer
Oh,
in New York City.
so that's the family you're talking about.
That's the family.
And then you married your present husband, who is...
Right. So when he died, a year later, I married Norman Pickering, who's now my husband.
Well, it's quite interesting that you kept yourself in the art business.
I think that's my fate, I've been
Yeah.
in the art world since ever I can remember,
So
I never did do political science.
Yeah.
I appreciate the education.
How did you meet your present husband? Did you
It
know him
was-
while you were still married?
No. I had a young son, 11 or 12, and he wanted to play the cello. And I was told that in Southampton, I was living in East Hampton then with my 2 boys. And I was told by my son's music teacher at the time that there was a gentleman in Southampton. He said, he's a little bit eccentric. I said, fine.
That's wonderful.
Send me there. He sells and repairs musical instruments, and he is a musician. Off I took my son Boris to Southampton, and off we went to meet Norman Pickering, who indeed had a cello to sell.
Yeah.
And we talked, and my poor son is sitting there thinking, when are they going to get around to me?
Yes.
But he was very patient, and eventually, bought the cello, and we became friends. And years later, when we were already married, Boris said, oh, Mom, look, we're all together again. The cello, me, you, Norman.
Right, very
So
interesting.
he still has the cello.
And
He now has children of his own, and he plays the cello for them.
and would you say your husband and you inspire each other?
Yes, I would say that.
Does he write his own music?
He has written music, he has arranged music, he's played just about every instrument, from French horn, violin, viola.
So primarily he's a music teacher?
No, primarily he's an inventor. Actually, he's a musical acoustics. He's both an engineer and a musician, I should say.
Oh, how
The two have come together into musical acoustics, and that's why he and I are both involved with Piano Fest that, I think you're going to talk
Yes.
about one of these weeks.
Right, the Piano Fest, that's where I met you last time I saw you
That's
at the
right.
Piano Fest.
Right, we were at Piano Fest together.
And what is your part in that?
Well, my part started when Piano Fest first began, and I was their first general manager for about 10, 11 years. And then the organization expanded, it got bigger, and it needed more staff. And so I stepped aside to let somebody else be general manager because it's really a lot of work, and I wasn't getting much writing done. But I'm still there, and I do their brochure, their publicity, and my husband and I together look after their practice house, you know, the building where all the pianos are in the summertime. And they all
So this
practice.
happens how many times? Once, twice a year?
It happens once a year, but it goes for 8 weeks. So there's something like 12 concerts.
And a lot of
every
young
summer.
musicians take
Yes.
part in this.
Yes, from all over the world. And I think you met Konstantin Sukovetsky.
Yes.
He's just one of our good examples.
Right. Do you play any instrument?
No, believe it or not, I do not play an instrument.
And you have no desire?
You know, I took lessons as a child and it just never stuck. You know, I don't have the discipline to sit down and practice. I don't have that mad desire to do that.
Well, that's
And
okay.
if you don't have it, you know, you shouldn't push it because you'll never be as good as somebody like Konstantin who has the passion for it.
Right. And you do need to practice a lot. Yes.
I do have a musical ear, I'm told. I love music. I've always loved music.
Do you ever shout out, you hit the wrong note?
No, actually, you know, sometimes I get so involved in the performance that I don't even hear the wrong notes. But
Are you working on anything now as far as writing?
I've written one essay that was published in an online journal called Vocabula. That's the latest piece I actually finished. And, you know, I'm always working on something. My kids want me to do autobiography and memoirs, and I find that very hard. But I'm working on it.
Well, because that's longer than a poem or a short story.
Yes, I'm writing bits and pieces. I told them if I
that's
started...
a good way to start,
Right.
yes.
If I start at day one, you know, I'll be bored by the time I'm 3. So I can't do it that way.
So you started one on whom? On yourself, autobiography or biography?
No, they want to know about my life, so I started about my life. But I didn't start at the beginning. I started when I was 18 or 19. And I might go back to the beginning.
Or you mean you started writing?
Right, I started writing, you know, about when I was
Yeah,
young.
I did that.
Did you?
Oh, yes. I've done that ever since I came to this country because everybody said, you have such an interesting
Yes.
life, write it. But like you, I wrote through the years, so that's
Yes,
how I remember mostly. And I finally had written it, finished it as a play.
Oh, good. Well, that's a thought.
So, and have you ever written any plays or a script? Or,
No, I don't know how.
Oh, you don't know, and you have no desire.
Well, you know, sooner or later I might just do it, but
Yeah.
it's a form that I don't understand. You know, I don't understand the mechanics of it.
Because you have so many short stories
I do
here.
have short stories with a lot of dialogue in them, and you know,
And
they
different
could sound like a
topics,
play.
right? Different
Yes.
Well,
Oh,
would you
yes.
believe it? I mean, I had written another play, and that came from a short story. I developed it from a short story. So
Well,
anything is possible if you...
If I give you this book, will you look and see if you can make a play out of some of them?
Oh, I would love that because
Said
I
she
know
promoting
how to...
herself.
What?
Said she promoting herself.
Yeah, I even started writing a play out of a book, but the person who wrote the book, she wasn't interested, so I dropped it.
Well,
But I could do
feel
it.
free.
Feel free.
Actually, there's one short story. If we have a minute, I'll tell you about it.
Yes, tell me.
It's a humorous story about the glitzy, fancy people who live in our town.
Oh,
It's
I
called
love
The
that.
Perfect Couple.
Oh,
And they're coming to a divorce, and they have the perfect couple of servants, husband and wife, and they fight over who gets custody of the servants. And it has a lot of dialogue, and it has a lot of newspaper headlines about this very public divorce that they're going through. I think it would make a fine play.
I think it would be
In the
very
right hands.
easy
In
for
the right
me
hands.
to make a play. That's great.
Think about the
That's-
perfect couple.
So when is the next Piano Fest coming?
We have to wait until next June.
Oh, that's next year exactly.
Yes.
How much preparation does that need?
On the part of the director to select the students and get everything in place takes from about now until the start of next year.
I would say yes.
Because you need not only the students who audition, you know, he needs to listen to a lot of tapes and make selections. And he needs to have the venue. I mean, we're hoping to have the Avram Hall at, I still call it Southampton College. It's Stony Brook, Southampton, I should say.
Yeah.
So you need to lock that in and have the dates correct. For me, it takes from about March until June to put together the brochure and get it into printable form and select some nice photos to make it attractive and write some press releases, call the various media people, tell them we're back.
And going back to your books, recently we had Authors Night in East Hampton Library. Did you partake in that?
Not this year, but I have been there twice as an author.
And you sold some books?
I sold some piece of the Hamptons, and I had my old books. They let me bring the older ones too.
Oh, you have more? How many books do you have?
No, these are it. I mean, these 4.
Oh, and who's the publisher?
Varies. These 2 were published on the North Fork in Mattituck by Emma Rion, which is now out of business. Not my fault. I didn't do it.
You didn't do it.
I didn't
You
do
were not
it.
the cause.
He retired. This is iUniverse. And this I put together myself with the help of a graphic designer. And it was just printed here in East Hampton, or Sag Harbor, by Skip Keener, who's now also retired. But he was,
Yeah.
you know, a printer you might remember.
Skip, that sounds familiar.
Yes, he did a lot of printing of also nonprofit, you know, organizations,
Yeah.
brochures
But
and things.
now with this technology, you could print your own books on the computer.
Yes,
And
it's, you know, it's the binding and marketing and, you know,
Well, the
iUniverse,
marketing
you
is
know.
the hard part.
Yes, you know, and
Yes.
that's
and-
where, you know, you're such a big help to people because you let them talk about their work.
Well, of course, I'm all for talented people. I admire talent, and I'm always happy if I could help that come
Well,
about.
You know, it's very important because it's the local people who are, excuse me, going to buy this book because they've maybe seen me or seen you or met Scott or whatever. Word
Yeah.
of mouth is the greatest advertising.
Right, it is.
And I can't afford to take big ads in the New York Times, you know, who could?
But people who read the New York Times, I don't think they would be so interested in
No, they wouldn't.
local
No.
things. And this is a good way to let people know
That's right.
that, hey, read my book, you may be in it. You never know whose
That's right.
name you're gonna find in it, your next door neighbor. Yeah, that's what I always say. Watch my show, you just never know who you're gonna find there and whose
That's right.
secrets you're gonna find out.
That's right,
Yeah.
right. Naming no names, all persons are fictional in here.
Yeah.
But some of them are quite recognizable.
So as I said, you know, for some reason I thought you were a dancer, but that's just a hobby. You're a writer.
That's right.
And the
I do
Piano
love dancing,
Fest.
right.
And your children follow in your footsteps?
My children are in education, so
In what form?
one of them is the director of programs and education at the Ecotarium in Worcester, Massachusetts. It's a science museum.
Right.
But his field is interactive learning. through museum exhibits. And he's designed some fabulous exhibits.
Yes.
And the other one works for a nonprofit in the Boston area. They both live in Boston.
How often do you get to see them?
Oh, you know, every couple of months. I'm going up there Columbus Day weekend to visit with them.
Or you go there? Do you
They
drive?
come here,
you
I
ride?
go there.
You drive or you
No,
fly?
I wouldn't drive into Boston. I would be dead in 5 minutes.
How long would it take?
Well, actually, on October 7th, I'm going to take the Hampton Jitney. They have a bus that goes very infrequently, but it goes for a weekend to Boston. So they're going
How
to
long does it take to ride?
6 hours.
Oh,
They
so
take the
why,
Port Jefferson
why did
Ferry.
you say you wouldn't drive there?
Oh, I'm afraid of the highways. I'm not
Oh,
that
the
kind of a driver.
highways. Oh, I thought maybe,
And the
I
city
thought maybe there
traffic.
was something scary when you enter Boston.
Yes, it's called Boston. No, I drive locally, you know. I never learned to drive until I lived in East Hampton. So, you know, I'm not used to major freeways and big city traffic. I never drove in New York City either.
I hate to drive in the city.
I don't
Oh, it's
blame you.
awful.
I don't know how you do it.
That's scary.
Yes, I always take the jitney when I go there.
Well, Jitney doesn't go every place.
No, I know.
Yeah. So
But
we
to
very-
Boston, I can also take the ferry, and then there's a train from New London.
And when you tell people I came on the Jitney, people look at you. Do they look at you funny? What's a Jitney?
Yes, yes. I tell you, I've been a jitney customer since they ran little vans.
Really? And I bet you buy the book they give once a year.
I used to. I don't get to the city that often anymore, but I did used to buy their ticket
Well,
books.
Barbara, it's been so delightful to have you here. I learned so much about you, and I'm so happy you're a writer.
Thank you.
I love to write. I wrote
Thank
many
you.
things. And I hope to see you at the Piano Fest. And
Hope we'll see you.
and we just finished a half hour of chatting.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been wonderful. So this is Judy Sleed signing off. The play's the thing, and I loved Barbara as a playmate.
Thank you. Feelings mutual.
And hopefully we'll be able to make a play out of one of your stories, and it's going to go Broadway.
Yay.
Okay, so we survived this. It was pretty hot, wouldn't you say? It was pretty hot here.
Yeah. Am I shiny?
No, it is just I came from a beauty parlor. It was hot, and I changed.